I'm terribly sorry that we had to do that, but it is important that we try to get Paul on, and let's see whether this one works. I've sent him the code. We can invite him, and he should pop up somewhere. And let's hope it all works. If it doesn't, then we're in trouble. And we're going to have to talk it through. Why these things work on some times and why they don't on others, I have absolutely no idea. And of course, it's technology, and I don't understand technology. I understand broadcasting, but I don't understand technology. So I hope that with the second attempt, that we will actually get Paul on board, and that's what it tells us to do. And if it's not working, I'm afraid we're really going to have to sort of practice this a bit more than we are at the moment. It's a great pity, but why it happens this way, I really don't know. Anyway, back to the headlines, and another 300 or so deaths, but we've got 12 million. So he sent me a message to say it's still not working, and I'm afraid that I'm at the end of how to do this. I have no idea what to do. So we're going to have to forego and perhaps bring Paul in tomorrow if he's available and have a chat then. It's all very disappointing, but technology is technology. All these people who have these things swear that they're going to work, and of course they never do. And why, heaven only knows. I think we'd better just calm down a little, shall we? Let's see what we've got. We did another little new thing here. So let's see if that's working. There we go. Just to let you know that we are here and about, and we're talking. And there, everything comes up there, you see. But do we have Paul? No, we do not. So we have to do that, and then I think we have to do that, and we're still all of a dither, all of a muck. There we are. At long last. Well, I'll be damned. It gets sort of a bit disheartening, doesn't it, when you practice these things and you think that you've got it cracked and then it just doesn't simply work. It's a real problem, a real problem. Right, let's have a look at, I don't know, whether the main story really is still COVID or whether it is the weather, because we are seeing the signs that the country couldn't well have done without this cold snap. In Lewis, we're lucky. We've just got a smattering of snow. And that smattering of snow is it's inconvenient. And if you're careful, it's okay. But let's look again at what's going on in the north. let's. I've got myself back. I don't know why it's not working with Paul this morning. So we'll have to investigate that. It could be one of the things that I get upset about with computers is that it's a bit like videotape. Some of you will remember Beta, and then there was VHS and so on before we stopped using videotape more or less domestically. And there was a big fight as to which should become popular, and they weren't compatible. And it's a bit like that with some of these systems, is they're not compatible. So you have one system on your computer, and somebody else has got another computer system on the computer, and it doesn't work. So why I have no idea. It works for me, and but it's not working for Paul. So I have no idea where we're at. Um, I got a feeling that perhaps Paul has got to get a new computer or try his phone. Um, but Paul, if you're watching, I'm terribly sorry, but the system seems to be working. It seems to be at your end. So if you could actually perhaps um, switch to a phone, or can you switch to a computer? That's a nice thing about modern technology is you can talk like this to people and say, do this, do that. Where in the old days, you couldn't do that at all. And in fact, one of the great pluses and great skills of a presenter is to try to make sure that people know that there's a two-way conversation even when there isn't. And one story that I'm very fond of to demonstrate just the skill of a presenter is in Canada, there was a gentleman called Lloyd Robertson who read the 9 o'clock news. And of course, he had to read it several times because Canada has several time zones. So he read the 9 o'clock news, and he got an email. Well, in those days, he didn't have email, but he got a letter from a couple on the Canadian prairies, which can be very isolated and very cold in the winter and very hot in the summer. But there was an elderly couple, and they said, "Dear Mr. Robertson, we really enjoy. In fact, I think it said, Dad and I really enjoy watching your newscast of an evening, but we have an argument about it. Dad says you can see us without us seeing you. And I say, no, you can't, that we can only see you. Who is right? The point of the story is that Robertson was doing his job because he persuaded them that there is a possibility that he and those two and he could actually see one another and have a chat, that he was talking to them. And that is a wonderful skill if you can do that. A wonderful skill indeed. And not too many people who get into television. Because the thing is, it's amazing. I still to this day talk to people, and they sort of they come in and they sit down. And you can be in a pub, in a restaurant when they're open or whatever, and they'll immediately tell you how to do television, right? As if there's no skill involved in it. And you have to listen to this is what you would do, and you should do this, and you should do that. So well, hang on, I've been around for a long time, but I understand this medium, and what you're saying is a load of rubbish. But you can't say that to people. They are convinced that because they watch television that they're experts. They know how to do it. Oh, dearie me, that's the same as me with flying. I can fly a Cessna, so I will sit down with a 747 pilot and tell him how to steer his plane through the air. Oh, yes, I will. uh, right, okay. Well, Paul, I'm sorry. It looks as if we can't get you this morning. We'll have to see how to work that out. It's not something that we've tried it on the air and we left everybody for a while. And for the moment, it's 7:47, and we yeah, he's asking me for help, but unfortunately, I just don't know the answer. So, Paul, if you're not watching, tune in and you'll know that it's working for me, and I don't know why it's not working for you. All right, and we're going to have more guests as the week progresses. We're trying hard to upgrade this everything that we do. Of course we are. We're trying to improve. And the reason that you see some of these glitches is that we're working hard and against the odds because we can't get anybody into the studio. There's nobody here except me because of COVID. And I sit, as you can see, in the corner. Well, I was going to turn around, and you can see my uh, lovely painting done of me by Leslie Hills, and all the equipment is sitting here with nobody to operate it. So what we're doing is we're doing our best to keep it going under very difficult circumstances. And I thought for a little while, because obviously as the economy is hit, so businesses are hit, and we're a small business. So as the economy is hit, so we are hit as well. And I thought for a little while that we may have to abandon our international service. Now, there are only about 3,000 people out of several billion that can see us who are tuning in, as best we can understand, to our international service. But the fact is that 3 months ago, there were only three. Now there are 3,000. And so we have to actually when the phone goes, isn't it funny? It breaks your concentration. And I'm sorry if I'm wandering a little, though, because I'm trying to listen to this phone. I'd love to help Paul, but I can't because I'm on the air. So we'll just have to see whether we can get him going tomorrow. Why the technology isn't working, I have no idea. But there we are. The My train of thought has been broken, and I can't remember now what the hell I was talking about. I think it's time to be rescued, and let's get the people that are our great supporters, because at the end of this week, yes, that's right. I know what I was talking about now. We're fighting. We're fighting the odds. We've had no support whatsoever from the government, while everybody else seems to have had checks lavished all over the place. We've had none. Now, in fairness, there is a gentleman at the local council who is looking very closely at it to see whether, because we've slipped through the cracks, there is anything that can do to be supported. And our local MP says that she's trying to help as well. So let's give credit where credit is due. But that's not paying wages, and it's not paying for equipment or anything else. And I am ashamed to say, that the only help that we've got so far has come from the United States. And we broadcast to the United States. And as I say, a couple of months ago, we had three people, and now we've got 3,000. So it's growing. And the Americans understand the value of international cooperation, of international communication, but they also understand when they're not having anywhere near as bad a time with lockdowns as we are, they understand just how bad it is in the United Kingdom. And the people who operate the streaming have cut their fees to about a tenth of what we would normally pay. In other words, it's almost a peppercorn rent. And we are grateful for that because it means our international service, in other words, Lewis going around the world, is still there and still operating and will. And that's a marvelous gesture by the Americans. If only we could get a Brit to make the same sort of gesture. I mean, it is embarrassing, isn't it? It's in Lewis, our service is kept going by somebody actually in Texas. I don't think it's Austin, but is in Texas. Whereas down the road, we struggle and we fight and so on and so forth. But then, sometimes we have to accept that we Brits really are second or third in line to other countries on some things. On some things, we are still world leaders. But I'm afraid that Boris said before the last election is that our governance system, governance, not government, governance system, the way that we are governed was not fit for purpose. And there has to be a root and branch review, right from Westminster down to parish councils. Well, of course, he's had to forget that. Well, perhaps he was going to forget it anyway, because politicians do make promises to get themselves elected or to appointed, and then they forget all about it. But he did say that it is not fit for purpose the way that our system is set up, and I couldn't agree more. And nobody is going to reform at the lower level. Our own council, for instance, is when the Conservatives were in, they had this iniquitous system that Tony Blair introduced of cabinet, which actually effectively puts local government governance into the hands of about 3 or 4 people. Oh, in a democracy, that's really something that really was. Aha! I see that Paul Fowle has managed it at last. Well done, Paul. Well, I was hoping that you would actually tune into us so you could hear me saying that everything seemed to be working at our end, and I actually managed to get myself onto the guest list through my phone. So I will get to you. Paul Fowle will be with us in a minute or two. I just finished to say that Boris promised a review. The cabinet system is iniquitous. In a democracy, and particularly at a local level, we shouldn't have just a few people able to control the entire operation. But that's the way it is. And of course, when we changed government, the opposition were all going to do away with cabinet, weren't they? Then they find out that they've got a lot of power in their hands. Do they want to change it? Of course not. So when we're talking about the public good, we sometimes have to look at local government as well as national government and say, do you people really care? Or is it all about your own politics and forcing issues onto us? I mean, we have to ask the question. And it's incumbent upon you. No, it's not incumbent upon you. You don't have to give the answer. But come an election, just remember there are certain questions that will be asked, and if you don't, then the chances are you'll be turfed out again. And we really don't want you turfed out necessarily. We would like stable government. That's what we're after, stable government. We don't want all this uproar. Now, here we go. I'm going to play you just a couple of the stalwarts that are looking after us, and then we'll go to Paul Fowle.
My name's Yad and welcome to my shop, Bell & Co. We specialise in mid-century furniture, 50s, 60s and 70s mainly. One of our main ethoses here is very much encouraging people to look at older pieces of furniture rather than buying new or buying flat pack. We're very much environmentally based in trying to encourage people to reuse and reimagine objects, and so we spend a lot of time restoring pieces, reupholstering pieces and bring them back to life generally. They're just fantastic to look at, and they're just beautiful items at really, really affordable prices.
From Capturing Tales, and we've been open here for about 2.5 years. We specialise in focaccia genovese, which is this focaccia, like that. And my mum and I went to Italy, to Genova, to learn to make focaccia, which is an ancient art. Then we do little salad pots, sauces, fresh pasta, stuff to take home and cook. We try to get locally to support other local businesses. We have a few cocktails in bottles, which is why we're called Catcher and Tales. We're open 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday, to come by and see us anytime.
Roundabout has been going for 35 years. We're a dress agency, so what we do is we sell on behalf of people. The customer gets 50% of the price and we take 50%. The online shop is roundaboutlewis.com. I try and update it, daily when things come in. We're open Tuesday to Saturday, 9:30 till 4:30. So if you're looking for gifts or a dress for yourself, why not visit?
Well, there we are. With any luck, I came back, and now I can see him moving into position. So let's give it the good old college try, and let's see whether we can get Paul Fowle online. There he is. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Pete. So much for
Master of
technology.
It's a good job you and I are useful for something else.
Yeah. Okay, it's that StreamYard. I don't know. No. It's anyway. I'm here, but there's a case of God. Anyway, good morning, Keith. Good morning, viewers.
Where are you this morning, Paul?
At home.
Yeah, I mean, are you in Hove or in Salisbury, or because you're a man of many parts, you shift around.
I have to keep on the run.
Right. Well, the weather here is going to be no warmer than 1 degree, and possibly it'll dip down to 3 and snow at lunchtime. What's the prognosis for you?
Brighton, probably about the same, good. Keith. It's there's no snow. There's some sunshine coming up over the cricket ground, so that's good news. Yep. Yeah. It's looking good.
How are we doing in the cricket down under? Well, we're in India, aren't we?
We're in India. I think we should win, but they're having a bit of a. I think we're all out 178 second innings, so from 500 odd to 178. But we've got the bowling to destroy them. Anyway.
Well, let's hope so. Anyway, down to business, because Paul is, as I just said, is a man of many parts. Those of you who have seen him, he's a regular on Round Table, which will be reintroduced at the end of this month, which is a Sunday night extravaganza in which 6 to 8 of us sit around and discuss some issue. But he's also now a regular on Seen in Sussex, our Good Morning show, live show. And he is two particular things. One, a former banker and understands the economy better than most. And he's also an ex-policeman. So he understands the criminal better than most. But let's stay this morning, Paul, with your banking hat, just for the moment anyway, because perhaps there is one thing that I do want to talk to you about as an ex-copper. Is the government are saying, or some government departments are saying, that when lockdown ends, there is going to be what they call a buying frenzy. That it's going to be like the old New Year's sales, people queuing to get into the stores and bouncing at them. First of all, do you agree with that assessment? And secondly, if it does, what are the effects going to be?
Two things here, Keith. Human beings don't generally change. And if we see bargains and we've been deprived of something, we all rush in. That's human nature. The danger with that is, I think we've got to emerge from this terrible year to a new era where we'll actually have to be a bit more spendthrift, a bit more sensible. And I don't think we can do that. So I'd imagine that there will initially 3 or 4 weeks of unnecessary panic buying. I think the government are right, because it's a pent up demand, Keith, and people are people.
Yeah, well, so far, I mean, when Boris has made a plea, don't go to the beach, don't have parties, and so on and so forth, there's been a fairly substantial part of our society that has sort of more or less say, we're not paying any attention to you, we're going to do our own thing. I mean, whatever anybody says, is this situation containable, or are we just going to have to put up with it?
I suppose if we do a comparison, Keith, we've had a war against a virus and we had World War II. The difference is the generational thinking, I think. After the Second World War, where people were far more deprived and lost far more for deaths in there, they realised they had to rebuild society. I think because we've got so much these days that people feel, well, I don't have to obey this. It seems to be the age group of 16 to 25. We've all been teenagers, Keith. I just feel that the youngsters, yes, they're obviously upset at what's happened, and I think it's a bit of a protest, Keith. I suppose you can't protest out in public. Therefore, the protest is, well, I'm just going to turn up to a bar and or to a takeaway cafe with 3 or 4 friends. I would say there are I'm a bit of a critic of social distancing, which has never been really sold to the public properly. And as you and I discussed the other week, people are social creatures. You can understand another pent-up frustration. So they're being knocked around. You can understand a bit of rebellion, but yeah, it shouldn't happen, Keith. It's because it'll keep COVID ticking over.
Yeah. Well, now, one of the things that I think that from an economic point of view is, and as you said when we were chatting about this, that the flood of people to the stores, if that does happen, while it may be socially a problem, economically it may be quite good for some people.
Yeah, from the beginning, Keith, it's been health versus economy. If you think about it, any decisions, at the end of the day, a decision has to be made in favour of economy as health gets better. But yeah, it's been the great divide. Both are very healthy. If you think about it, health is obviously vital to people, but so is the economy, because I think that, yeah, there will be what I call panic buying, but I think it'll be a good thing if people get it over with and then think, hold it, we've got through everything, the lockdown's over, let's kind of get back to normal society. So it's I don't know, Keith. It's you've got to go along with human nature to some extent, but and a frenzy followed by moderation might not be a bad thing. At least it will stimulate or kickstart the economy. It's the key thing is post-COVID. Where do we go after the frenzy? The key thing is how do we rebuild the economy? Some are saying 1 year, 2 year. I don't know, Keith, but that's got to be the main thing. After the Second World War, what did people do? Get on with it and rebuild the economy, and it was very quick. Germany, very quick. So I'm not a doom monger. I think the economy is more robust than people think.
Now, probably, I mean, you are in a special position because as a policeman, you would have become something of a psychologist. And as a banker, you do understand what makes the economy tick. So from that viewpoint, and you just said, I don't know. And I think that all of us have to say we don't know what's going to happen. But you probably are as qualified as anybody to speculate a little as to what life is going to be like the moment that we actually get back to what we call normalcy. Because, I mean, some people are saying that, for instance, there will be no more crowds going to football games. Everybody's got so used to watching things on television. And of course, people like Netflix and some of the streamers, including ourselves, are now delivering things in a totally different way. And people are getting used to it and using it. What do you see? I'm not asking you for 10 years ahead, but what do you see sort of in the immediate future? Yes, like after the war, we may decide to get on with it, but what will that mean?
There are different times then, Keith. People's desires and wants are so different from the Second World War generation. I think that people have to adapt to the new society. We'll have to accept that certain things have gone. Reliance on online and staying indoors, if that continues, that might be a good or bad thing. I don't know, Keith. But I would say that it's natural for people to, first of all, get rid of the pent-up demand where people can spend. You and I have talked about, I haven't seen you for a drink for ages, have I? Which is sad. So I think that we are Well, we are social animals, and I think people, especially the youngsters, have taken that risk because they're missing something which is dear to their heart. Beer is dear to my heart, so I think there'll be a mad, say 3 months. Summer's coming, which is good. People will be spending a lot of money there. I think once they've got that initial burst out of the way, we'll all have to sit down and say, well, where do we go from now? COVID's been bad and good in many ways. I think COVID's woken us up. And what I get from, as you know, you and I speak for America a lot, and as I get from friends in South Africa, Australia, we've got to, I think it's woken up most of society because we've got to get it right and we're not getting it right. And I think people are worried about so many different things. I'm still positive that in the next year or so, the economy will come back because it has to come back.
I'm getting from people that I talk to that the mood of the country, the end of the first lockdown, we were all sort of, gosh, we got through it, all jolly good, and we banged pots in support of the NHS, and it was all sort of very pleasant. But we're going through a very hard winter, and this third lockdown came as almost as a surprise, and it was, it came very quickly, and people are suggesting, and I must say that, because we can't talk directly to people very easily, but that the mood of the country on this one is quite different to the end of the first one. Now, once again, wearing your copper's hat, because you can look at people and say, yes, I can sense these things. What's your sense about that?
A concern, Keith. You're absolutely right. I've spoken to so many friends. I've got family. The government haven't mishandled things, but I think that you have to allow certain tolerance and give people credit for having some brain. Now, the argument is that if one person for example, in Perth, in Australia, one person has had coronavirus, and they've done a quick lockdown. One person. Now you have to draw the line. The Aussies are tough there, and I think that people have handled it generally well, except for the idiots who gather on Brighton Beach or University of Sussex, where 700 people gathered. You can understand the frustration. In fact, I get frustrated with how life is led. We are social creatures, so I think the government has to. This lockdown, I think, was the straw that broke the camel's back. If I think there's a boiling point being reached, which if they did it again, I think you wouldn't see demonstration in the street, but you'd see a lot more people flouting the law. And at the end of the day, Keith, a law is only a good law if it's enforceable. So if 2016 to 30-year-olds want to go somewhere because they're fed up, what can society do? What can the government do? So I think we've got to allow people to show common sense. Yes, have regulations which should be enforced in a draconian way, but give people credit that all they're saying is we'd like to get back to our normal life, and that's understandable. You can't really stop that.
No, I agree, and as usual, very perceptive thinking on your part. One of the things that, and I'll put your copper's hat back on, is that stats also suggest that because of lockdown, is that domestic violence and domestic crime, abuse, and so on and so forth is increasing. I mean, quite a sharp upturn. First of all, is that what you read? And secondly, how do we deal with that?
I've heard in some places it's gone up 30 to 50% in certain areas of the country, Keith. I'm sure that goes worldwide. The thing is, people who you can't be cooped up. I've got friends like you have with three or four children, a wife. There's only, no matter how much you care for somebody, you're going to have rifts. And the only way, of course, is going out. But you can't go out and enjoy yourself because the government have put restrictions on it. So on the one hand, the government are trying to resolve one problem, they've created another. And I'm not blaming the government. Every government would have done the same. But I do think there should be some relaxation. People get fed up with saying, oh, it's a spike. Oh, there's 5 cases in Hampshire. All they want to know is this lockdown, I think, has been a bit too harsh. That's my view. I think the vaccine, which I think I'm getting my vaccine end of this month, Keith. The vaccine will be the game changer, and if all goes well, then we'll look back and think, why did we worry? So I think that the saviour is vaccine, not the government or our behaviour. It's vaccine. Everyone's putting it. It's like backing the horse in the derby, Keith. And actually, we still don't know what the consequences there will be. But it's a vaccine, and we're led to believe it's okay. So yeah, it's a tough one, Keith, because people, I'd like to see you. I'd like to see my family. I'd like to see my son. But it's not possible. But you think about it. That's really. Yes, it's harsh on people, and I don't think anyone is really enjoying it. We've got to live with that. But another big, my view is another big.
I'm always concerned about the pubs, as you know. Are they ever coming back?
Well, Keith, I will say, I think hospitality, which is 10% of GDP for Britain, hospitality has taken an unfair bashing. And I think the government, and I'd say it to Boris if he was here, and he likes a drink or two, I think they've been a bit too harsh because, as you know, my son runs pubs, and it seemed to work then. I don't see why... If there's sensible social distancing, whether it be a church or a pub, if it can be proved that whoever's running the thing is keeping a proper housekeeping. So I just got to turn this off. Sorry, my phone's gone off. Keith, I think this is the important point that I've talked to all my friends, and my friends range from opera singers to policemen to bankers. And we're all in one voice that the social distancing is something that people can't quite grasp, can't quite accept, and I don't quite accept it. And it's fine if it is actually necessary. But it's proven in Australia and other places that there has to come a point when you say, you can go out now, guys. Otherwise, do we wait until it's down to one case in 5 years' time to say, it's okay now, we can all go without social distancing? It's a hypocrisy. You go into a supermarket and you bump into people. You might go to a church, a big church with 2 people, and that's safer than being knocked around in a supermarket. So the social distancing is the one thing. I've spoken to hundreds of people literally on that, and they all say that's the thing they don't quite accept and don't quite get.
I think you said if Boris was here, and of course I've got my standard call into number 10 every morning, and somebody's calling back. Hello. Oh, Boris. Well, you'll be happy to know that I've got Paul with me. Yes, Paul Fowle. You remember meeting him, don't you? Yes. Yes, it was in town for a drink on one occasion. Yeah. But anyway, he'd got a couple of questions for you. But the thing is, what we really wanted to know is, have you still got those bars open in Westminster? Yeah. What? So why have you got the rest of us locked out of our pubs? Because right. You're in a bubble, but we're in a bubble too. I mean, yes. Boris. I mean, it really isn't fair for you to have privilege and us not. Because I mean, Paul and I like to meet in a pub. I mean, can we come up to town? Could we come into Westminster and go to one of your bars? No. Yeah. Are you going to keep the subsidy on for the drinks? Yes. Paul, he'll only give me a minute or two each morning, but you've got a couple of questions for him. What was your question for Boris? You said if he was here, you would ask.
Well, I would ask that, why isn't lockdown, what should we say, lessened, and we have some social distancing where people and pubs and hospitality should reopen in some way, because without hospitality, it's kind of like a bedrock of society.
Did you hear that, Boris? I mean, there's very sensible questions from Paul, and what we would really like to know, just before you go back to affairs of state, is: are you going to ease up on the pubs? How fast are you going to open them and actually stop them being restaurants and let us belly up to the bar again? Yes. Well, you're not sure about that. Listen, we'll talk to you again tomorrow, Prime Minister. And do you think you could have the answer to Paul's question? I mean, it's a serious question, and it's very important that we get an answer. Yeah. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. But it's good of you to take these calls, but a lot of people listen. Yes, they do. All right. Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye. Well, there you are, Paul. We got through to the boss, and you got your chance. You said that if he was here just at the right time, just as he called. So let's just take a respite, and we'll come back. I know we say to you, and we're very actually, you'll only be on for 10 minutes. You're always on for much longer, and a valued contributor you are. And in fact, it's 19 minutes past 8, so we haven't got that much longer left. But let's just one of the things that always has amused me. I'm going to show this clip, and then I'm going to ask your opinion.
Okay.
Oh, you got me, Lottie. Oh.
Well, now, the reason that I showed that is not those people, because there was obviously a father and his children having a wonderful time in the snow. But there was an organised snowball fight in which about 80 people took part, and the organisers were fined £10,000 each for doing it. Now, is that equitable in your view?
Well, compared to Australia, that's probably light, but the Australians seem to choose the right people. Put it this way, Keith. When we leave at home every morning, we don't do social distancing, but we do look out for being run over. It's rather like the government saying, okay, you're not allowed to do this because of social distancing. But of course, you're allowed to cross the road, which in itself is a risk. Now, the government don't mitigate the risk of you crossing a road. It happens, and you can get run over, which happens. So why should you treat social distancing different? Social distancing is good in some ways, but it's actually undermined our if you like, our morale and our spirit, and has brought on mental health problems. Now, I don't know the statistics on mental health, but I bet at the end of the year, when it's all published, there'll be enormous people who've suffered. There'll be suicides, there'll be domestic disputes. And surely, is there anything wrong with social distancing? You might have 5% of the population might not go with it, but that's still better than keeping 100% of the population almost in an open prison situation, which I think it is almost. My day, Keith, just to give you as an ex-policeman, is I'll go to the beach. I make sure I don't get too near people. I'll have a wander, do a bit of shopping, and back here, watch a bit of television, and then in the evening go for a walk, avoiding people. I've noticed in Brighton that people are now wearing masks throughout, which is fine. But people might not like what I'm going to say now, but I'll say it. It's a rather namby-pamby society, because it's rather like saying to a group of soldiers, you're going out, guys, today. And by the way, you must be very careful how you shoot, etc. You must be very careful of how you do things. It's real life. And I think what happens is they've created a kind of, I suppose a shadow life to all of us, because we're not living as human beings should do. So that's my view. I'm not having to go at the government, God forbid, but we have to socialise to be called a society and to continue. And I've got many friends who are at their wits' end. I think another lockdown, and a serious lockdown, would be disastrous, and you might well see mini riots, Keith. And that's my police hat on. And I think I've spoken to some police. There would be concern if this goes on and on and on. It's tough for the government, I know, but they've got to make a decision. And that decision will be unpopular with some and popular with others. But governments, hey, they have to ride that. But please get the social distancing sorted out, because I see merit in it, but I don't see it workable. And I think hospitality should reopen because it's fundamental to our life. And as I say,
well,
you can kill. Sorry, I was just going to say, Keith,
it's interesting what you say, Paul, because somewhere when I was searching through the news this morning, and I didn't pause on it, but these things stick in your mind. Is somebody somewhere said used the phrases the fabric of society is slowly unraveling. I mean, would you actually go along with that far?
Yeah. Well, yes, because think about it. We've been attacked by a virus which has been nasty. But again, in the great litany of these things, it's not the worst disaster we've had. So we've been battered on COVID. We've been battered on how we lead our lives. We have been actually, and again, the government, I'm sure, are doing it in our best interest. But we're grown-ups, and at the end of the day, some grown-ups will be bad and get arrested. Most grown-ups will actually say, "Well, hold it, this is a bit draconian, and we're not enjoying life." And you would get protests, and quite rightly. So, I just think it's the third lockdown as it is. I think it's 3 lockdowns now. Has been, I think, ill-timed, too draconian. And I sense people have only got, say, a few months before they really say, well, this is ridiculous. And you would get people perhaps on the streets. I don't want that to happen, but you've got to be reasonable. Otherwise, you're treating people like cattle rather than thinking people. There's got to be a balance, Keith. You know, I don't know enough about it, but I just believe that talking to friends and people in the streets, they are getting fed up. And I'm sure the government know that. Just be sensible.
Well, we're appealing to somebody, Paul, because Pam Mason, who I don't know, but has contacted me on Facebook a couple of times, has discovered how to contact us, and she is the first ever person to actually make a comment. And what she says is, obviously looking at you, because she couldn't have been looking at me, is woohoo. So Pam, welcome, and I hope that you'll pop in with a comment from time to time as we do our morning thing, because we do really want people to respond where we can. We're getting very close now to the end of our time, I'm sorry to say. But one of the things, Paul, that, the sad thing is, I can understand how upset people can get, because in the last, since the lockdown, I had a lady who she simply sent into my Facebook account is contact, whatever it says, and I don't normally do it. And what made me do it, I have no idea. Is I sort of punched the thing, and we had a chat, and within a day she left me. And then I went, because we were thinking of doing a program, because my staff can be very, very, very strange when it comes to kicking me. They said, we'll find you a wife, Keith, by going on Tinder. So we went on Tinder, and I found this gorgeous lady who is from South Africa, but staying in London, but she comes sometimes to Haywards Heath. And before we ever got around to Haywards Heath, she left me. So it goes on. So social media in terms of my love life is absolutely destroying it. How about yours?
I'll have to go 5 years back, 5 years for that, Keith.
Paul, it's always a delight to have you. Thank you very much. And you're going to come back on Thursday. I mean, one of the interesting things is that you sometimes say, what should we talk about? But between now and Thursday, things can so dramatically change that you're actually off the cuff, as it were, comments to what's happened in the last 24 hours are much more valuable than us thinking and analysing things. So, I mean, you've got great experience. I mean, apart from being a copper and apart from being a banker, you also travelled widely, which experience is always very important. So we value what you say. don't go away, but I am going to have to sort of give our sponsors a little bit more of a shot before we go. So here we go.
You want me to stay, please?
My name's Yad and welcome to my shop, Bell & Co. We specialise in mid-century furniture, 50s, 60s and 70s mainly. One of our main ethoses here is very much encouraging people to look at older pieces of furniture rather than buying new or buying flat pack. We're very much environmentally based in trying to encourage people to reuse and reimagine objects, and so we spend a lot of time restoring pieces, reupholstering pieces and bring them back to life generally. They're just fantastic to look at and they're just beautiful items at really, really affordable prices.
Hi, I'm Elisa from Catching Tales, and we've been open here for about 2.5 years. We specialise in focaccia genovese, which is this focaccia, like that. And my mum and I went to Italy, to Genova, to learn to make focaccia, which is an ancient art. Then we do little salad pots, sauces, fresh pasta, stuff to take home and cook. We try to get locally to support other local businesses. We have a few cocktails in bottles, which is why we're called Catcher and Tales. We're open 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday. So come by and see us anytime.
Roundabout has been going for 35 years. We're a dress agency, so what we do is we sell on behalf of people. The customer gets 50% of the price and we take 50%. The online shop is roundaboutlewis.com. I try and update it daily when things come in. We're open Tuesday to Saturday, 9:30 till 4:30. So if you're looking for gifts or a dress for yourself, why not visit?
Hello, Keith.
Here am I. So we have to say goodbye, unfortunately. We'll look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Okay, Keith.
And we'll have some more good talk.
Yeah.
I'm sorry we had a little bit.
Okay.
We are getting over the technology, so we'll look forward to that. And it's cold outside, so be careful. But what I would suggest is that I know you keep a couple of bottles of champagne. Is don't bother to put them in the fridge. Just put them outside the back door. Jiggle pip to you and to everybody. Here's what we called one of our original programs, which we'll bring back eventually. So until tomorrow morning, toodle pip.
I am mix of emotion, got my statement, and I'm